18 through to 24. And at the moment we have 6 people on the milking roster, and then we have one guy, a young fella who's generally outside driving tractors and that type of thing and in charge of irrigation.
Fantastic. Now, about the management structure. So you've got well, I'll let you describe it.
Yep, sure. We've just commenced and we had it for last season too, backdated. We're in an equity partnership with Rob and Joe Bradley. So we own a certain percentage of all the, dairy cow, the cows and the machinery. And then all of the asset, the tractors and that type of thing. And then we also are in partnership with them on a block that we've recently purchased, which has facilitated us growing our herd size. So we've been very fortunate to be provided the opportunity that we've been given, and it seems to work really. We're really appreciating being in an equity partnership.
Fantastic. And can you tell us why you participate in benchmarking?
Yep, sure. Just checking out your photos. So I've been involved in benchmarking for the last 2 years, and I really think that it's a really important part of our business. Not so much to benchmark against other people, but mainly just to get an idea of what our year-on-year changes are like. And then I guess the reason why I'm keen on it, as opposed to just putting our numbers into Dairy Base, is that I think that the Dairy Business of the Year process is really important to have a third party come onto the farm and validate your numbers and make sure that they're okay, so that next year when we look back upon our numbers in the future, we know that we're comparing apples with apples and we haven't actually missed things out. So I think from that point of view, it's a really constructive process and something that's a really important part of our business.
Fantastic. And the final question is I've nominated 3 things. What are the 3 things that are most important to you in operating a successful dairy business?
Yep. I guess probably number 1 for me is you've got to have happy and healthy cows that are well fed. So that's number 1. We try not to shirk on any animal welfare, and we try and maintain the cows in the best condition that we can. So that's number 1. Number 2, I would say, would be like relationships. So I'd put into that, with our suppliers, with our staff is really important. And also, obviously, being in an equity partnership, it's important to maintain good relationships with our partners. And then thirdly, I guess, profitability as a kind of starting out in the dairy industry, profitability is really important to us, and so is wealth creation. So we think that that's a really important part of our business. But in saying that, I reckon that's probably, that's a distant third in my eyes. I guess if we can get the top 2 things right, then the profitability should flow out the bottom of it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that, James. Congratulations to you and your team for being a finalist in this year's award. So it's quite an achievement. I always like to make sure that we highlight that we recognise that there can only be one winner, and that's always the tricky bit. But each business that has made it to a finalist position has done exceptionally well. So thank you. So I'm going to hand over to Sam now to have a chat with Grant and Kim about their business.
Wonderful. Thanks, Leslie. So, yeah, we've got Active Dairies owned by Grant and Kim Archer, and I just want to ask you guys a few questions. So, Grant and Kim, where is the farm located?
Yep, thanks, Sam. Located not far away from James, actually, at Bracknell, which is nestled in under the Western Tiers in the mid-north of Tasmania.
Excellent, a beautiful spot. And so how many cows are you milking there?
We're milking 1,200. We did peak at 1,300, and yeah, we're having quite a good season out there, especially with all the rain we've had in the last month.
Yep, lovely. And so obviously farm team and staff is a big important part to your business, Grant and Kim. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your farm team?
Yep, no, our staff are very good to us. We don't live on the farm, so I live about 20 minutes away from the farm, so very much rely on them putting into place a lot of the day-to-day practices on the farm. I've got a very good farm manager, Wayne French, who's been with me for 6 or 7 years. I've got 2 assistant managers, Jamie Chilcott and Melissa Chugg, who've both been with me for quite a while as well. And then I've got some other support staff, Thomas Chugg, Kurt Wade, and Stephen Hayes, who's actually a full-time milker. And I've got Mel Dawkins, who's our calf rearing manager, and I've got Megan Tubb, who assists Mel with the calf rearing. So quite a good team, and yeah, couldn't do it without them.
Excellent, and it sounds like you've got a really good team behind you. How about benchmarking? So Grant, you participate in benchmarking. You have for a while. So do you want to tell us why you participate and what value you get from that?
Well, a long time ago, I started benchmarking mainly because to see where we were sitting, and initially we actually worked pretty well. It was a goal of mine to actually make sure that we did rise up the ranks and at least be in the top 10%. And since we've managed to get up to that position, since then I mainly use benchmarking to check that we're still, up in the top bracket, I suppose, because that means that what we're doing is, still working and we're still performing well. So that's how I probably mainly use benchmarking in our business.
Excellent. Yes. And so when it comes to thinking about running a successful dairy business, what are 3 things that you think are key to that?
I think the first thing is probably to keep it really simple. We try not to make it too complex, because then it makes it much easier for our staff to run the farm. Also, it's given us the ability in the past to be able to have multiple farms, because we've got a fairly simple system. I don't need to be there all the time to make sure everything goes correctly. So we have it fairly simple, so it can, it's easy to follow and easy to understand. Another thing that's I think is very important is you actually have, your farm and the strengths of your farm, and you actually build a system that works around the strengths of that farm. And our situation at Bracknell now, where we're having a lot of irrigation, we calve relatively early for probably a cooler area. We calve early August. We make spring our priority in trying to make the most of that. And because the pasture growth is quite slow. So, that's important. And then also and it may be if we were on a different farm that was perhaps closer to the coast, where we had good winter growth rates and not much irrigation, we may calve in the autumn to take advantage of good winter growth rates and perhaps a dry summer. So I think it's horses for courses. And then another thing is actually then to have the cows that actually suit that system. So in our situation, we have high fertility, so we go for a crossbreed herd that are very efficient at grazing pasture and also getting calf. And probably one other thing that I'd say is pasture. As I've talked about, pasture is very important, I think, in Tasmanian farming, and cheapest form of feed we've got. So we try and maximise the use of that. So the keys there are growing as much pasture as you can, and the tools we would use there are fertiliser, drainage, rotation length. They're all very important in maximising your pasture growth. And then as far as utilising it, you've got to have the right stocking rate, you've got to be calving at the right time, and you've got to have high genetic merit cows. So we work a fair bit on breeding, and you want well-grown young stock. So when they come into the herd, they're producing rather than growing.
Excellent. Thank you, Grant, and thank you, Kim. So, yeah, I'd like to personally congratulate you guys for being finalists in this year's awards. And yeah, I know my experience since I've been in the dairy industry, Grant, you've been really encouraging and always involved in dairy industry activities. So, yeah, I'm really happy with that. And we'll now introduce. So Simon Jones is going to introduce Luke, David Baldock, and Paul Loader. Thank you.
Good, I'll just unmute myself. So firstly, congratulations, Luke and Paul. And similar line of questioning, thanks for jumping online on this different online forum. Can you tell us about Dalmore Dairies? So firstly, where are you situated? And Leslie will put some pictures. Hope we've got the roaming drone up there. So
we do, Simon, but I've just realised that I've got the wrong name of the dairy business. So ignore the Rosemount at the top and just look at Dalmore Dairy. Sorry, guys.
You're confusing me.
Yes.
Okay, so this question can either be answered by Luke or Paul or both.
Okay, I'll go with this question. Dalmore is located in Dairy Plains, which is approximately 10 kilometres southwest of Deloraine. It's a relatively good high rainfall area. And I think that self-explanatory, it's not called Dairy Plains for any other reason than it's particularly good dairy country. So that's where we're currently located.
Yep. And just following on from Paul, then can you just tell us about how big the farm is and how many cows you're currently milking or that you have been milking?
Over to you, Luke, on that one.
Yeah, so we're 270 odd hectares of ground. We milk 800 cows. This season we've gone to 800. Next season we'll probably go up 850. So we've just been incrementally growing the herd size. Yeah, that's about how many cows we milk. We run all the young stock off farm normally and milk off the irrigation.
Yep. And how much irrigation do you have, Luke?
We've got 170 hectares.
Yep. And where does the water come
from? The meander scheme.
Oh, yeah, all from the meander scheme. What type of cows are you milking? Are they crossbreds or?
Yeah, crossbreds. So we've got. It's a three-way cross, which we got when we brought the herd. We brought the farm and the herd of cows. So they're three-way cross cows. And yeah, just keep breeding that crossbred. Seem to be working well for this environment of grassbred. Three-way cross works well.
And I guess the other thing is a bit about the farm structure itself. And the farm team. So how long have you both been there? I know, Paul, you're a local.
Yes, Paul.
So you know the area very well. How long have you been on Dalmore? What's the relationship? How does it work between you both and the company structure and the farm team?
Over you, Paul.
You want me to go with that one? Okay. The farm was purchased at the beginning of last season. It's run by BWB, which is a company which runs farms for groups of investors, for which they appoint a manager, and then there's the staff to run the farm. I started off on the farm at the beginning of the season with Luke as my 2IC, and we had other staff members on there as well at the same time to help out with just the general day-to-day running. But my objective was to get the farm operational, get through a season and a half, and transition out of that and let Luke take over. So it's been a learning curve for all of us, including myself, to work through the process of transitioning Luke into management, and he's done a particularly good job of taking over, and I think the farm reflects that this particular season.
And in terms of your staff the team that you've got supporting you, Paul and Luke, how many do you employ, and is that sort of consistent with sort of industry benchmarks, or do you find you run more because it's a new farm, and is there much development?
I can take this one now, Paul, if you want.
Yeah, sure.
No, I think we've been sitting pretty well with industry benchmarks. Like we've run a pretty low shift. I come onto the farm. I was sort of stayed on the farm. I was with the previous owners. And last year with me and Paul, mentoring me worked really well at that stage, and we had a few casual workers and a couple of permanents underneath. This season, we've skipped out to having I transitioned into the manager role, and Paul become my part-time 2IC, mentor. And we're currently training up a 2IC at the moment, and we have one other permanent and some casual milkers, which, like James's team, we've got quite a young staff as well, which we find there's young people that are quite keen if you're willing to train them. I think it's the key.
And yeah, great. Thanks, Luke. I guess the other question that we've been asking the other farms is your motivation to participate in benchmarking, and being a relatively new farm or young farm in terms of ownership. What has been the motivation for benchmarking, and what have you got out of that?
This one's for you, Paul, isn't it?
No, that's yours, Luke.
Oh, mine. Oh, okay then. Yeah, well, we do it. We want to have a standard we can compare to other farms and set a basing and continue benchmarking for years to come to make sure that we do want to be a top performing farm and maintain a high performance culture within the farm. I think benchmarking is a great way to do that. Yeah.
And then sort of following on, what do you think, tell us about the three most important things that you would consider successful for a dairy farm like yours. So what's your philosophy in terms of success look like?
There you go, Paul.
Okay, I suppose my I've got three main areas that I would probably concentrate on, a little bit similar to what James had to say. I look at the farm being my number one, and the farm is basically looking after the land, making sure that the fertility is right, the weeds are right, drainage is right. If you look after the farm, it will look after you. The next thing is the cows and animal health, and I've concentrated over the years on making sure that my cows are in the best possible condition that they can be most of the year. Animal health issues are addressed as soon as possible. Maintaining a very low empty rate, and obviously high performance is the best performance production out of the cows that I can possibly get. And the third thing is the staff and all the rest of our supply contact, including our financial support, our nutritional support, and agronomy support as well. But I guess looking after staff, because at the end of the day, if you haven't got good staff on a farm, you can't take advantage of having good cows and a good farm. So maintaining good staff, treating everybody as an individual and making them feel important, and making them feel as if they're part of the team, and they need to be just part of the cog that makes it all go around without any gaps or something. But it's just making everybody feel important no matter what they do on the team. So it's staff, cows, and farm. That's about my lot, and everything else will fall into place. Any thoughts on that, Luke?
Yeah, I'm the same. I go, cows, farm and stuff. So you know, we've both got very similar goals in how to run a successful business, which I think is why we've got along so well during what can be a difficult time in the startup of a dairy business. Got similar goals and respect each other's decisions quite greatly.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we'll leave it there. And I think now that I'll hand back to Leslie, and she'll introduce the judges of this year's award, or co-judges.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you all. Even though I've been around and been part of the judging visits, it's still really interesting to hear what you have to say about running a successful dairy business. So each year we conduct the Dairy Business of the Year award, and the finalists are selected from participants in the Tasmanian Dairy Benchmarking Program. And so we generally, I guess, typically have between 30 to 40 participants in the state, and the finalists are selected based on their return on assets and their earnings before interest and tax per hectare. So they're given points for each of those financial measures within their business. And so each year we pick the top three businesses. And so I can't mention any names, but I also just like to also mention that we often have businesses that have won previously that are also still really high performing. So they'll know who they are in the benchmarking, and just like to congratulate them on their continued high performance. So once a business has won the Dairy Business of the Year award, they can't win it again for another 5 years. This year, we've just met the three finalists. So once we've picked the finalists and they've agreed to participate in the award, then the winners from the previous year and myself head out to have a look at the farms, to go through their numbers, so to look at all the financial information that we've collected as part of the benchmarking process, but then to also have a look around the farm and have a look at, and I guess it's it's harsh saying that we're going out there to judge the businesses, but that's our role as judges, is to go out there and have a look at each of the businesses and just see that what they're doing is matching up with the financials, and that what they're doing is going to be considered industry best practice. The tough part of our job is that we have to score each of the finalists on a whole range of things. So from their business management, their pastures, their people, their cows, and how and the environment, and how that all fits together to drive the financial performance that they've got. So we score each of the businesses, and then it's simply the business with the highest number of points that becomes the winners. I'm going to hand over to Tim and Fiona just to share a few things that they noticed on our travel around each of the farms, and so Tim and Fiona, over to you.
Hello all. I'll take off the talking for a start. It was a pleasure to go around and go with Leslie to judge these farms. Made us feel very proud to be part of the dairy industry when you go and meet these finalists and walk into their businesses and see how they're using all their resources to their best ability, how they respect the environment, how they respect their staff. All three finalists, all three farms do a terrific job of respecting their staff, treating them well, and trying to inspire them to help in their business, help to undertake roles and promote them to do the best that they can to make sure their business is running well. It made it a very tough job, and luckily, Leslie, there's a point system to give us a bit of a guide, because it's a very tough job trying to choose between all three finalists because they're all doing such a fantastic job. And I'm just not trying to gloss over everything. It is amazing the jobs that's been done out there, and everybody should be very proud of what they're doing. Yeah. And the achievement that they're all getting is fantastic. A few words, Fiona?
I don't know what I can add, but yeah, I'm just yeah, absolutely proud to see what a terrific job the Tasmanian dairy industry is doing, and what fantastic representation from these guys. Well done.
Excellent. Thank you both, Tim and Fiona. It is a tough job to be a judge in the award, and I know the farm judges alternate between excitement at going to see each of the businesses, and then sort of when you sit down and you go through all the points and everything, it's like, oh, but they're all so close. So congratulations, everybody. Thank you, Tim and Fiona, for your involvement in it. We couldn't do it without you. But yes, at the end of the day, even though each of the finalists was really good, we did have to pick a winner. And so I'm going to hand over to Rick Webb from ANZ now to do the announcement of that winner. Thank you, Rick.
All right, no worries, Leslie. Thank you. I'll probably add a couple of little words here. So for those that don't know me on the wider audience, Rick Webb's my name. Senior Agri Manager with ANZ, based in Tasmania. ANZ's been a proud supporter of the Tasmanian industry for many, many years, specifically been sponsoring the Tasmanian Dairy Business of the Year now for 22 years straight. So we're incredibly proud of that association with both the industry and producers on the ground. So thank you, and keep up the good work there. So whilst the industry, and like all agricultural commodities, swings and roundabouts, there's good years, not so good years, I think obviously the year going forward is shaping up to be a really positive year for the dairy industry in Tasmania. It's an industry that's got good positivity at the moment. And we can, take heed of that, and bank remains supportive of both the industry and the producers, albeit, the most recent effects of COVID-19, dare I say it. So just on that basis, obviously, ANZ, remains open for business. We're there to support the clients, we're there to support the industry and that, and the communities on which we live and work in. So yeah, good luck, and if there's any issues, please reach out to myself or any of your banks out there. So we're here to help. Finalists, obviously, for the award have demonstrated to me excellence in effective management, really, over all aspects of their business. And you've got to do that to achieve, the strong financial performance. So congratulations to all three finalists here today. And I'm not sure, Leslie, whether you've got a drum roll that you want to bounce out before I announce the winner. But I'd like to congratulate Grant and Kim Archer and the Lactic Dairies for being this year's winner of the Dairy Business of the Year. Thank you.
Great.
Well done, Grant and
Back to you,
Kim.
Leslie and Sam.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for that, Rick. We appreciate your support. So, yes, congratulations, everybody, again, but in particular, Grant and Kim, for winning this, the 2020 ANZ Dairy Business of the Year Award. Grant and Kim, did you have anything that you wanted to, I do have a few questions for you later, but is there anything that you just want to say in immediate response to the win?
Yeah, no, we're very, very pleased. And I suppose the pleasing part about it is, as probably people know, we have won it before, but I suppose it's pleasing to us that we can move to different farms and still achieve great results. So I think, that shows that probably the system we've developed over the years seems to be work really well and be transferable onto different farms. So that's what we're very pleased about. I've got a few people I'd like to thank, Leslie, if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, I'd really like to thank the sponsors, especially ANZ in this award, but also I'd like to thank the sponsors in the other awards that are being presented over the next few weeks. I think the dairy industry's got some great partners and people that are willing to support the industry. So thank you to all the sponsors. As I mentioned before when you asked me the questions, our staff are very important to us. So once again, I'd like to thank Wayne, Melissa, Jamie, Thomas, Kirsten, Stephen, Mel and Megan for all their wonderful help on the farm. I'd also like to recognise some of our business advisors and contractors, because it's, you know, we run quite a big business and there's quite a lot of people that help us in achieving the results we do. Some people I'd like to mention are Neil Layton, who works with us with our nutrition, Corey Hogarth, our agronomist, Danny Hoare, our accountant from Synectic, Georgia Loring, our relationship manager from the Commonwealth Bank, Greg Jordan from Woodland Management, who's helped us a lot with the development on the farm, Dennis Dobson from 3D Ag, he's been with us for a long time, Dennis, and does all our hay and silage work. Charlie Hooper and his team from Springland Ag, they help us with all our pasture renewal work. Peter Wishart and Sam Morgan from Longford Vets, who are our vets and do a great job. Tim Murphy and his team from All Tax Spreading, they spread all the fertiliser on the farm and lime, and do a great job with that. Laurie Hooper and Peter Gaffney and their team from Agritech, who've built a lovely dairy for us and provide good service on that. And Nick Hingston from Hingston Transport. We've always used Hingston's for our stock movement, and they're always very reliable and offer us great support. And also some other people I'd like to thank are our registers. All our young stock are registered off the property, and we've had some long relationships with them, and they do a great job. James Clutterbuck, David Wishaw and Tony Gray.
Fantastic. So Grant and Kim, I thought it'd be a good chance just to ask you a few more questions about your business, but James and Luke and Paul, don't switch off, because I'm going to be throwing a couple of questions to you guys as we go through as well. And so Sam, you'll let us know if there's any questions from Facebook or YouTube, if that's all working properly.
Yes, it seems to be working, so I'll keep you updated.
Yeah. So it's a great chance now, if people are watching on Facebook or YouTube, to just ask any questions that you might have of either the winners or the finalists. But Grant and Kim, you mentioned, Grant, that one of the important things in your business, in having successful business, is keeping things simple. So can you just explain a little bit more about how you maintain that simplicity in your system, and I guess what the different things are when you think about sort of managing things and you're making decisions about how do you choose what's going to be simple for the business but still drive good profit?
Yeah, and I think we just, we've done things before, like perhaps measuring the whole farm and things like that, which takes a lot of time and, can actually add a little bit of complexity sometimes, I think, to the decision making. So we've got a pretty simple system around the grazing, where we just list the paddocks as we graze them. We're very focused on residuals in the spring, so that's an easy thing to do, is just measure residuals, and then we've got a system we've developed for ensuring correct residuals are met. Other things we do, we just, we try, we've got support, like say with our irrigation, we have technology we use there to monitor our moisture, which is then the staff can access quite easily and helps a lot with a simple decision whether to irrigate or not. So, there's some examples of some fairly simple sort of things that, anybody can do.
Excellent. Now, we didn't have much of a chance before to learn. So you said, you mentioned earlier that you have won the award before, and I think that is a great, you are a great example of farmers that are able to implement that system that you run on different businesses. And so there is a little bit of crossover, because one of the times that you won the award, you were at Rosemount, where James is now. And so I'm just wondering, can you tell us a little bit about, I guess, when you purchased this farm here, like how long ago was that, and sort of how have you developed that since you purchased it?
We originally moved onto the farm, part of the farm, in December 2013. We bought a property from Roger and Pam Swain, which was only 124 hectares. It had a herringbone dairy, and we actually leased Roger and Pam's cows for the 6 months for the rest of the season. And just so happened we probably ended up picking the right spot, because there was land just came up around us that we were able to purchase. And over the next 3 to 4 years, we actually added another 400 hectares to the farm, and we're able to build a brand new rotary dairy, install some pivots, and develop the farm to what it is today. So yeah, originally when we bought the farm, we thought, oh, it's a fair bit smaller than what we've been used to running, but we did want to get back into some ownership of land. We could see that there's some benefits in owning land and improving it and getting some capital gain. So we were keen to get back into ownership of land, and as it's turned out, we probably invested in the right area.
And so when you purchased, so obviously you've said you've expanded, but when you purchased, what were some of the first things that you looked at in terms of developing it into the farm that you saw as the dairy farm that you wanted it to end up looking like?
Well, I mean, our focus has always been on the land, probably, and doing the best you can with it. So straight away you're looking at soil tests and fertility levels and pasture species, drainage. They're our keys to and irrigation. They're the keys to improving the property. We'd already, the cows that came on the farm, we'd already been breeding for a lot of years, and they were well suited to the system we were running, so that was quite easy. And it was just a matter of developing the farm, and you try and develop it as quickly as you can, and quite often you have to prioritise what's the most important areas to spend your money on. So it's a matter of prioritising all the time as to what development you do that will give you the greatest return.
And so I might just, because each of the businesses involved, even though they've been dairy farms previously, like as a new manager comes on to a dairy farm, there's things that you're going to want to adapt or change. So James, can I just ask you, like when you've come onto the farm, like what have you had to focus on to, I guess, keep the development of the farm going?
It's a good question, Leslie. I guess I've probably just focused on, for me, coming into the region and into the state and system, the pasture-based system. I guess for me, I've really tried to develop a strong support network, and also, I've probably relied pretty heavily on a long-standing group of staff that were here previously, and I've really tried to give those staff some autonomy and a bit of responsibility. So that's one thing. The other thing for me is that I've tried to focus on is getting my head around pasture management and trying to improve my pasture management, and that's something that I will continue to do. And then also, probably throughout the last 2.5 years, opportunities have come up to purchase cows, and for us, we think that those decisions have been good ones in retrospect. But yeah, so just tried to build herd numbers and trying to make sure that the development that we're doing is going to, improve our labour efficiency and make our lives easier. So they're probably the big ones I've focused on. I mean, there's a few things about this farm that, we haven't changed too much. Like we haven't gone out and bought a heap of machinery. We haven't made any drastic changes to the dairy. So it's really just trying to get things outside and in the paddocks working as well as they can for us.
Yeah, excellent. Luke and Paul, how about when you took over? So yours was an existing dairy farm as well, but obviously you saw the potential for going on there. Were there things that you had to prioritise, I guess, your focus on?
Yeah, I think focus on pasture management initially when we first took over the farm was priority. we had extremely good cover, which sometimes can be a good thing, but it was also very challenging to try and work through that process. Obviously, you know, work going onto a farm where it's a new block of land, a new dairy, although an existing age group dairy, but a new type of dairy, new cows, new calving system, calf rearing system, just had to, you know, adapt to what was there and work the best way we possibly could to, you know, try and make it as economic and as efficient as possible, which meant some changes on what Luke had been previously doing over the last couple of years, but just implementing them and progressing our way through the system. So it was, yeah, I guess putting some of the old practice into place, but just looking at everything and going with whatever the face value was at the time. So it was, yeah, there were some changes that need to be made, but we, you know, progressed through the best we could, and I think we came out of it at the end of the day quite well. You know, with the first year on a corporate farm, it functioned really well.
Excellent. So each of the finalists has mentioned pasture management as being an important part of their business. So Grant, you mentioned, like when I asked you about your simple systems, you said that was one of the things that you focus on, having a simple pasture management system. Now you've got a business that has, my understanding is, there's still a reasonable amount of rain-fed pasture, although you've been developing the irrigation. Can you just tell us about how you go around managing your pasture and how you balance the rain-fed portion of your farm and your irrigated portion of the farm?
Yeah, thanks, Leslie. We've only got 22% of the farm irrigated. So as you say, there is a large portion of the farm that is dry land, but we are in a higher rainfall zone of about 1,000 mils. So we do get probably growth on that dry land area for probably 8 months of the year or something like that. Yeah, our priority still is to maximise the amount of pasture we produce on the dry land. So we would still you know, fertilise it regularly when the grass is growing. We would try and run the correct rotation lengths to get to 3 leaf stage on that dry land pasture. Especially in the dry part of the year, we would go out onto fairly long rounds to maximise the production. And our irrigated, how we manage that is certainly through the summer, the irrigation is our main priority, and we would do everything to make sure the irrigation gets the highest priority. So we would probably put on heavier rates of nitrogen, certainly get to 3 leaf stage on the irrigated to maximise the amount of growth we get off it. And sometimes we may even sacrifice the dry land to make the most of the irrigated growth that we can get off that irrigated area.
And so you've had to do a fair bit of renovation and use silage fairly extensively, is that correct?
Yes, we've certainly renovation's been a big focus for us. We've probably regrassed, I've actually added up, probably 60 to 70% of the farm's been regrassed since we purchased it. And we do use silage quite a bit. One thing we've done since we've moved to this farm is we have set up some long-term relationships with suppliers of silage, and we do buy the silage in the spring, which I historically hadn't done. We tended to buy silage in the autumn or the summer as we needed it. But because we've got such a large dry land component of the farm, we know we need to feed reasonably large levels of silage. So we instigated a plan where we actually pay for the silage based on the energy and the protein content of the silage. And it's weighed and then sampled 3 to 4 weeks after it's been made, and we pay based on the quality of that silage. And that certainly had some really good results. The award year, we had a pretty dry summer, and the cows milked exceptionally well, and I would put most of that down to the quality of the silage. We've had silage testing. This year we bought some that actually tested at 12.5 megajoules, which I've never seen silage as good as that. So that's been, you know, quite an important part of maintaining production through the summer.
Excellent. And do you use crops at all?
Yep. Yeah, crops is how we mainly do the pasture renovation. So we've mainly been renovating dryland pastures, and we use a turnip crop, which is planted in the spring and then grows through the summer. The yields have been a bit up and down depending on the season, but yeah, it's been important to, you can probably, you know, you can have some spraying to control some weeds and things like that as well. So, and it is in a dryland situation, you definitely need to plant in the autumn. So running that crop through the summer gives a chance to come up with a good seed bed, a good area ready to sow for a new pasture. We've had you know, really good results with that pasture being sown in the autumn, and usually we try and get sown as early as we can, so we can get it grazed at least once or twice prior to the winter.
Excellent. And so we're seeing a few overhead shots of your dairy herd there. Can you just tell us a bit about your breed of cows? So you said you've got a cow that suits your system well. So can you just tell us a little bit more about the herd?
Yeah, way back in 1996, we started share farming for my parents, and at that stage we had a Friesian herd, and you know, I sort of recognised that if we wanted to be you know, being dairy for the long term, that we really actually had to go to crossbreds, because we were spring calving. We wanted to remain a spring calving, so we started crossbreeding very early in the piece. And the change we made a bit along the way was we've actually introduced the red breed as well now, so we've got a three-way cross going. But yeah, we're certainly very focused on high fertility. And 2 years ago, last year and this year, we're no longer inducing as the industry are moving towards that. And having a high fertility crossbred herd has meant that our empty rate and our in-calf rate is still really good. This year, we've achieved a 79% 6-week in-calf rate, and for a 9-week mating, a bit under 12% empty rate, which I think is pretty good for you know, for those short mating periods.
I've just been chatting, my microphone muted. So whoever was able to lip read there, you're doing great. Luke, I was just going to ask you about your dairy herd, and if you could just tell us a little bit about your herd, and then James, I'll come to you as well.
Yeah, so we brought the herd of cows when we purchased the farm off of Fearlands. So they were a three-way cross cows, but they were on the higher grain. So we sort of really put an emphasis on fertility coming into this year and last year. We did calve for 14 weeks last year. So we brought it down to 9 this year, but no inductions against that. And this year we had a 91% in calf rate for 9-week calving. Yeah, so we just continue that. We've brought some LIC breeding into the herd as well, just to try and get that fertility in. Get cows calved early here because we're quite wet here. We can go from wet to growing a lot of grass really quickly, so we've got to halve cows down quickly and then take advantage of the growth.
Yeah.
Well. And
your farm, Luke, is it 100% irrigated or close to?
No, it'd be 70% irrigated.
Yeah.
So yeah, still dry land there, but trying to utilise that dry land is our get returns off that. Is the goal was really focused on this season. Last season we focused on getting more irrigation in and feeding.
Yeah. Fantastic. And James, how about your herd?
Sorry, Leslie. Yeah, our herd, we've got a crossbred herd. It's generally it's been a pretty young herd, I guess, being put together over the last 6 to 7 years, I think. In the last 2.5 years, I think we worked out we bought something like 480 cows. So it's a pretty like newish herd. In terms of our selection criteria on bulls, we're generally moving towards an LRC type cow. And we're using some red genetics as well as to get a bit of hybrid vigor in there. Fertility is really, really important to us, similar to the other 2 farms. So we just set parameters around our bull selection into some pretty hard parameters, and then we are able to go through the catalogue from there rather than looking at the glossy pictures and doing it the other way around. And yeah, we've tried to put a pretty strong focus on rearing young stock in the last few years, and just we think we're starting to see, and we will see next season hopefully, some improved production out of our R3s just coming into the herd with a bit more weight on them.
Thanks, James. So I'd like to just go back to, this is a Dairy Business of the Year award, and obviously financial performance is one of the key metrics that we have a look at, but all of these other farm management things obviously have to tie in, because you're not going to get good financial performance if you're not doing a great job on the farm. But I was wondering, Grant and Kim, whether you could just tell us a little bit about that business management side of your business. So what do you do like in terms of budgeting and planning and prioritising spending and those types of things to ensure that you get good returns?
Yeah, so actually with the help of our accountant, we've recently changed to Xero, which I was found a bit difficult to start with, but it is a really good program. So we certainly set a budget at the beginning of the year. As soon as we get milk prices released, we do an income estimation, and we would certainly do some pretty detailed budgeting on what we think we're going to need to feed and feed prices, and we know our labour costs, feed, labour and fertiliser are probably the big ones, so we get all those pretty as accurate as we can, and we enter those into a budget. Then we're constantly updating the budget. Every quarter we have a review, and we look at how we perform for the quarter compared to last year and compared to budget. And then later in the year, we do a fair bit of forecasting ahead to look at how we're tracking, and perhaps where we've got some room for expenditure, and generally with planning our expenditure. As I said, it's we would be looking at what our options are, and then doing some number crunching on what we think is going to give us the best return for that money expended.
Excellent. So I'm just going to finish off our discussion by talking to each of you. So one of the things that Tim and Fiona highlighted was around the people management within the business was exceptional across the three businesses. So just starting with you, Grant and Kim, can you tell us a bit more about, I guess, how you work with your team to make sure that everybody's, I guess, satisfied in their jobs and doing a great job for the business?
I think the main thing is we try to have really good communication. We also, once a year, we do a performance review, and we look at, and the question there is asked, what do you like about the job? What areas do you like? Do you want to work more hours? Do you want to work less hours? What days would you like off? All that's factored into, their work and their work program, and rosterings. A lot of the time they'll request days off, specific days off, and most of the time that can be worked in. We certainly focus on having good work conditions. So, we try and keep our machinery updated and in really good condition, well maintained, so that it's great for them to use, and we keep the dairy clean, and just focus on having pride in the farm and the work area, so they they can see that, and they'll have the same feeling for that. But we just try and be flexible. communicate well, and certainly give them areas of responsibility, and and treat them with respect, and put, quite often I say to myself, if I'm looking at ask them to do something, would I like to do that myself? Would I, if I put myself in their shoes? I think that's very important to say, well, if I don't like doing it, I don't think I should be getting them to do it. So that's some of the keys there.
Excellent. Luke, how about on your farm? You said you've got, like both you and James got a relatively young team and new people in the business, but what is it that you find important in managing your team to encourage their development?
I think it's the involvement in all the decisions and that we make on the farm. It's key. You really want to make them feel that they're involved and let them know they're involved in the business. And allow opportunity for growth and promote it. So if you've got people who want to learn or showing interest, take the time to train them or to source support for them to go to, or tell them who they have to talk to find out about that information, and just be really open with them about what's going on in the whole picture. And so they have an ownership. They're proud of where they work, proud of the farm.
And James, how about you, with your team?
Yeah, I guess I probably have taken a few things about things that I didn't like about previous bosses that I've had, and just try and treat the staff the way that I would like to be treated, and having a young group of staff that are all quite keen, just try and promote, the idea of asking questions, and if there's no question that's too silly, and try and get them as much training as we possibly can, and also explain, if we're making big decisions, try to explain to the staff why we're doing them and what are the reasons behind it, and let them raise any concerns that they may have. And then I guess also just trying to provide a happy environment. Like, a lot of these guys are pretty, possibly impressionable, and just trying to make sure that coming to work on this place is a good place to come and work.
Excellent. Well, just before we wrap up, so I've been doing all the question asking. Was there anybody else on our Zoom panel that had any questions for each other, or anything that they wanted to add about their business?
James, you've only been down here for 2.5 years, you said. I mean, how are you finding Tasmania? Are you finding it a good place to dairy, and pleased with the move? Yeah,
I think I guess I'm very, very, very happy that we've moved down here, and I think that Tassie's definitely got a strong culture, a strong future, and a really, really good culture within the industry, more focused around cost control rather than what the milk price is, and so I really enjoy that. And it's also great working in a larger business that where the where we're trying to grow and do things the best that we possibly can. So I think it's I'm not just saying this, but I think it's a really fantastic industry down here, and really, really happy to be down here, and I think it's got a really good future ahead of it.
Yeah, Grant, I just had one question. Given that you've got 22% irrigation, what stocking rate do you run there? And I'll just throw that to the other guys, what stocking rate you fellas are running on, sort of with more irrigation. So, Grant?
Yeah, our stocking rate is about 3.3 cows per hectare all up over the total area. So with 22% irrigated.
Yep.
This year we're on target to do about 470 milk solids a cow. So I think that works out at sort of 1,500 kilograms of milk solids a hectare.
And how do you sustain production through those dry summer months? You say you buy a lot of silage, but how much concentrate would you feed?
We'll feed, high levels of concentrate if we need to. So we've been up as high as 7 kilos per cow per day. And a lot of that will depend on the grain price, the quality of the silage, and the main thing we feed supplement for is to achieve the correct rotation. So we'll feed as much as we need to make sure that we've got the right rotation length for our pasture.
Do you ever find that pasture intake's compromised through the summer months at that stocking rate?
I remember 2 or 3 years ago, it was really dry and we weren't, we were basically merely surviving off purely the irrigated, but the cows still seem to milk pretty well. I mean, if we can, I know Wayne, my manager, he's in the irrigation management group, and I think our growth rates have been pretty high compared to some in the group, and we can definitely get growth rates of sort of 80 to 90 kilos per day if we fertilise well and are on the correct rotation. So if you work that out, even at 22% of the farm irrigated, that irrigated pasture, I think, can still provide like 5 or 6 kilos of dry matter per cow per day. So it's amazing what you can do with a small amount of irrigation if you really, push it hard.
So having said that, would you consider developing more irrigation?
We've got a third pivot just going in now, actually, and we have got some more water, which will bring the irrigated area up to 30%. But that's probably as much as we can put in because we've got a high voltage power line that runs through the middle of the farm, and we've also got the Liffey River. So we've got a few restrictions about where we can put pivots. And also we haven't got any more water at this stage either. So, but I'm happy enough with 30% of the farm irrigated. I think that's probably not a bad number for us. And next year we're actually going to 3 herds, which will mean, and the beauty of putting this third pivot in, each herd will have a pivot circle. So that'll work quite well.
Yeah. Paul, I'll just throw to you. Just listening to Grant with his reasonably high stocking rate on that amount of dry land, what sort of stocking rate are you running with more irrigation?
Well, I think the stocking rate for the total farms are around about 3.5, but under irrigation we're probably sitting close to 5 cows per hectare under the irrigation, so it's quite a high stocking rate. But in the area with the right amount of fertility and water being applied, we can grow sufficient grass to fully feed, well, not fully feed the cows, but feed them around about 14 kgs per cow per day of pasture, and then the balance would be made up of just a loose grain mix.
Yep. And James, what percentage of pasture is in the diet for your herd?
Yeah, so our cows are getting fed. This year they're going to be getting fed about 1.3 tonnes of concentrate and 200 to 300 kilos of turnips, and the remaining will be pasture. It's amazing that we're probably, I don't know, maybe 5 k's from Grant as the crow flies, and something that will be future development for this farm is getting better at our dryland pasture management. So we use our dryland pastures for kind of late, calving on, and then kind of late spring, and then pushing out our round length in autumn. But aside from that, we kind of discredit them. So looking forward to trying to improve our management there. In terms of stocking rate, Simon, we've been reasonably high at about 4 cows, and we're probably going to slightly drop that back next year. We're hoping that will be the first year we've had where we haven't bought on new area or new cows. So hopefully we'll be, have about 335 hectares of irrigation, and we'll be milking about 1,250 cows. So it works out at about 3.7 cows a hectare. So that should mean that our reliance on grain and turnips drops, hopefully.
Yeah. James, do you milk through a rotary?
Yep, we do. So through a 54 stand rotary.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for that.
So I'm just going to, I said I was going to finish off with people, but I just remembered one of the other aspects that we do look at, and I think people have mentioned it as we've gone through, and is around, I guess, the environmental sustainability of the businesses. So we can focus a lot on the financial aspect, but one of the things that I appreciate when I go around and look at the businesses is the work that's happening in terms of making sure that things are environmentally sustainable as well. So Grant mentioned that there's a river flowing through the farm, which does impact on being able to put in pivot irrigation and things like that. But I just wanted, Grant, can you just tell us a little bit about how you manage that river?
But we've certainly made sure that river is fenced off completely, and no stock get access to it. Some other things we do on the farm, we've got a separate effluent area which we monitor very closely as far as fertility levels, and we do try and cut silage off that in the spring whenever we can. We also soil test every year. We do. We've got 15 zones on the farm, and we actually soil test one paddock in each zone for the year. So we're very conscious of making sure we've got you know, the right fertility levels and not overdoing it and causing any leaching. As I said, we've got moisture monitoring equipment in, which means that we hopefully don't over irrigate and end up yeah, washing nutrients into our streams. We've also got a skip bin which we bought in the farm 2 or 3 years ago now. So all our waste it goes into the skip bin, so no waste is you know, it gets end up being buried on the farm or around the farm.
Also, Grant, we seem to have a question on our live feed for you, and feel free anyone else to jump in. But Sally Murfitt has asked, what are some of the ways that you help people grow professionally other than training? So this is a staff-related question.
Yeah, well, certainly training. We do provide a lot of training, and as was talked about before, I think any courses that are available that our staff can use, we certainly would avail them of that. We would do in-house training. We would, if there were certain things that we were doing in practice, we would show our staff how to do that. We have had staff develop and you know, and move off the farm previously onto other farms, and that's certainly not something I would discourage. And part of our plan when we had multiple farms was actually to develop our own staff, and then that enabled us to move onto other farms, knowing that we had the staff, we knew, we trained them in the systems we run. So that was quite important. Does that answer the question, or?
Yeah, I think so. So I guess it's not only training, but the relationships and the other aspects that come into it. So yeah, I think they were just wanting a bit more around, yeah, how you, I guess, get them to develop and yeah, progress them through your business.
Yeah, yep. And I mean, yeah, we could look at growing the business if we had staff again that probably had outgrown where they were and wanted to move on. So that's something we were always open to, I think. You know, let's if they want to develop and they want to progress and there's no more room on the farm they're on, do we look at you know, doing something to help them into another farm, or it might even be we say, oh, no, we don't want to do that, but we would try and perhaps help them find a farm who we think they would work well with or something like that.
Yeah, excellent. And just while I'm on here, Grant and Kim, I'd just like to say there are a lot of comments coming through with congratulations and yeah, some well wishes. So everyone's very, very happy that you've taken out the award.
Thank you everyone for those kind comments. We're very pleased.
Fantastic. Well, we might wrap it up here. I thought we'd finish a lot earlier than this. I feel that we could chat all day, but you guys have all probably got something that you need to go on with. So I just want to wrap it up by saying congratulations again, Grant and Kim, for winning this award, but also to Dalmore and Rosemount for the success that they've had over the past 12 months, and I'm sure that we'll see them as future finalists as well. Thank you, everybody, for participating today. I think we've all managed to stay online, and there hasn't been too many technical hiccups or anything. So that's been great. Jono, did you want to just mention? So we've got the Share Dairy Farmer of the Year award happening next Wednesday at 12 noon. So similar to this, but with the Share Dairy Farmers, and then we've got some other awards coming up as well.
Yeah, no, this kicks off over sort of a 5-week period, the announcement of all of the awards. So as you picked up on, a lot of them are focused around the people piece, the environment and the safety. And there are obviously key areas that have already been talked about today. So it's a good opportunity to further promote those doing a great job throughout the industry in those key areas. Next week, 12 o'clock, the Share Farmer Award, as you picked up on. The following week, we go into the Environmental Award and the Safety Award. Then the Employee and Employer Awards will be announced on the 6th of May, which would have been when AgFest was on. And then we're culminating on the 13th of May with the Young Farmer Encouragement Award. So, yeah, good opportunity to highlight a number of key areas throughout the industry over the next couple of coming weeks. I do have here some nice trophies for each of the finalists and obviously the winner. So congratulations to all the finalists, that I'll get them out to you. Already picked up on obviously 22 years that ANZ have been sponsoring the Dairy Business of the Year awards, and the first one in its history that's been held online. So thanks very much to Rick for your ongoing support, and look forward to hopefully incorporating some of the key bits that we've picked up and out of this year's online presentation into a more physical awards evening, and then the farm open day next year as well. So, and lastly, I just wanted to thank Nathan Backer for his work. One of the highlights of this online streaming process has been some of the aerial footage, which I think's really showcased the natural environment, the lush pastures, and the healthy cows that the industry is renowned for throughout Tasmania. And I'm comfortable that it'll be a great promotional tool for those not only within Tasmania, but those from other parts of the world who choose to want to watch the live stream action on replay later on. Yeah, and looking forward to the next 4 weeks and the media attention that we can continue to leverage to showcase the success that the industry is having across the state. So thanks very much to all the partners, TIA and ANZ, all the finalists, particularly for all your work in preparing your presentations and ensure that it all works such a seamless environment. Thank you very much.
Well done, everyone, and thank you. And we'll see you around one day, hopefully in the not too distant future.
See you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
All right.
That's a great. I don't know,